Hey there. So if you've been trying to keep up with the news on the U.S. housing market, your head is probably spinning. One minute you hear it's booming, the next you hear it's busting. The reality, as we kick off 2026, is, well, it's a whole lot more complicated. So today, we're going to untangle this thing.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are we watching a slowdown, a full-on crash, or is the market just morphing into something new? Turns out, the answer really depends on where you're standing. Okay, let's get into it. So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start way up high with the 30,000-foot view of the national market. Then we're going to drill down into what's probably the single biggest challenge for buyers, affordability. After that, we'll zoom right into one local market, Big Bear, California, to see how these huge trends are actually playing out on the ground. And then we'll wrap it all up with what it all means for you.
All right, first things first. Let's try to get our arms around the national picture. What's the vibe across the country as a whole?
So, boom or bust? Well, according to a brand new report from the property analytics firm Cotality, the answer is neither. They're calling it a transitional phase, which is really just a nice way of saying the market is trying to figure itself out after a few absolutely wild years.
Now, if you just looked at this number, you'd think things are pretty calm. National home prices up just 1% year over year. I mean, that's a massive cool down from the crazy double-digit growth we were seeing, but hey, it's still growth, right? The thing is, this one little number is hiding a much bigger story.
And here's where that 1% average starts to completely fall apart. It's masking this huge regional divide. You got parts of the Northeast and the Midwest where prices are actually still gaining momentum. But then you have the places that were red hot just a year or two ago, think Florida and Texas, and they're seeing what the report calls a pronounced softening.
And when you zoom into specific cities, you can really see this cool down in action. In the last part of 2025, home sales in both New York City and Austin just plummeted by almost 30% from the year before. And meanwhile, down in Miami, a typical house is now sitting on the market for 69 days. For perspective, the national median is 47 days. That's over 3 weeks longer. These are not small shifts we're talking about.
So you have to ask, what's causing all this? Why are these hot markets slowing down so fast? It really all comes down to one core issue: affordability. This is, without a doubt, the biggest pressure point shaping everything right now. And this is pretty stark. According to Cotality's index, only about 56% of U.S. metro areas are even considered affordable anymore for a family earning the median income. Think about that. In almost half of America's major cities, the dream of owning a home is just slipping out of reach for the average person. And get this, it's not just the mortgage itself that's the problem. We're seeing what's being called an escrow squeeze. That means the other stuff in your monthly payment, your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance, have just skyrocketed. In a lot of places, they now make up a mind-boggling 40% or even more of the total monthly payment. This affordability crisis is also creating another huge divide. Last year, sellers gave people paying with all cash an average discount of 9%. But for buyers who needed a mortgage, nothing. Zero discount. It just goes to show you in a tough market like this, the certainty of cash is king, and it puts regular buyers at a huge disadvantage.
Okay, so we've got the big picture. We see the national trends, we see the affordability pressure, but what does a softening market actually look and feel like for a real community? To find out, let's zoom in.
We're heading to the mountains, to the resort town of Big Bear, California. It's a really popular spot for vacations and second homes, and those kinds of markets often feel the effects of big economic shifts first, and they feel them fast.
And to see this whole thing in action, we're going to look at the data from just 2 months, back to back, December of 2025 and January of 2026. This gives us a real-time, almost minute-by-minute snapshot of just how quickly things can turn.
And wow, the shift is dramatic. I mean, in just 1 month, the number of homes sold dropped by almost 20%. The median sales price just cratered by over $100,000, and houses started sitting on the market for an extra 41 days. This is what a real market shift looks like on the ground.
Let that sink in. Nearly 1 out of every 5 potential sales just vanished in the span of 30 days. And that is what a pronounced softening feels like in your bank account. A 6-figure drop in the median price just like that.
Yeah, and that means sellers are suddenly having to wait nearly 6 extra weeks to find a buyer. That's a huge change in psychology for a market.
So the main point here is that the market in Big Bear didn't just cool down a little bit. No, it changed fundamentally in the time it takes for the counter to flip one page.
So let's zoom back out. We've gone from the national view all the way down to a single mountain town. What can we learn from all this? Let's connect the dots.
So what are the big takeaways? Well, first, that 1% national number is a nice headline, but it doesn't tell you a thing about what's happening on your street. It's context, not certainty. Second, affordability is the engine driving this whole train. When people get priced out, markets cool down, period. And finally, the gap between the hot markets and the cold ones is getting wider, which brings us back to the oldest saying in the book, all real estate is local.
So in the end, it really is a tale of two realities. You've got these broad national averages on one side, and then you have these very specific, very real local stories on the other. You've got markets gaining steam right next door to markets that are softening fast. The story here isn't just about a bunch of data, it's about finding your own clarity in all of this complexity. Which leaves us with one final thought. In a market that's this divided, where are you going to find your opportunity?